Right now, as you're watching this, SpaceX is doing something unprecedented in the history of spaceflight. They're literally tearing apart one of the most iconic launch pads in modern space history, the very same pad that caught a rocket booster with giant metal chopsticks just weeks ago, while simultaneously racing to activate an entirely new launch site over 1,200 miles away. And both of these massive operations are happening for one reason. Starship 5-3 is coming, and it's bigger than anything we've seen before. I'm talking about a coordinated demolition and construction effort across 2 states that would make most aerospace companies pause and reconsider. But this is SpaceX. And what's unfolding at Starbase right now looks less like a construction project and more like controlled chaos with a purpose. One of the 6 massive legs supporting the orbital launch mount at pad, one has already been ripped down and crashed into the dirt. The iconic 6-legged spider that held Starship for 11 historic flights? It's being turned into scrap metal. And this isn't some minor renovation. SpaceX is gutting the entire pad down to the foundation, removing systems that took years to build and perfect. Meanwhile, 1,200 miles east at Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A, something extraordinary just happened. A brand new launch mount, the next generation design that will define Starship's future, has been lifted into position over the flame trench. The same mount design that Starbase is destroying its pad to make room for is already installed and waiting in Florida. We're witnessing a double transformation that signals one clear message. The Starship program is accelerating, not slowing down. And the timeline? Florida could see its first Starship launch as early as spring 2026, possibly before Starbase Pad 1 even comes back online. Welcome to Space Update 24 Hours, where we track every move in humanity's push to become a multiplanetary species. Let's dive right in. Pad 1 at Starbase isn't just another launch site. This is where Starship flew for the first time, where concrete melted and debris flew into the Gulf, where we witnessed 11 increasingly successful flights, and where SpaceX caught a 20-story rocket booster with mechanical arms just weeks ago. Now they're tearing it apart piece by piece. 5 weeks into demolition, and the pace is accelerating. Last week, crews removed most of the upper orbital launch mount ring and started cutting straight through the lower support beams. Some sections were lifted carefully. Others were simply dropped onto the dirt pad with ground-shaking impacts that sent up clouds of dust. This past Sunday brought the most dramatic moment yet. Workers ripped off the staircase engineers used to climb the mount, a clear signal the careful phase is over. Minutes later, one of the 6 massive legs crashed down. What's left looks like an industrial graveyard, twisted steel jutting out at angles that make you wonder how it's still standing. SpaceX isn't salvaging any of this. The metal goes to recyclers. The cable chains that powered the chopsticks have been detached from Tower 1 by next week. The entire 6-legged structure will be gone. And buried beneath all that debris is the old deluge plate, the water spray system that was supposed to protect the pad from 33 Raptor engines. That's getting ripped out too, because what's coming next is far more powerful. The new orbital launch mount isn't an upgrade. It's a complete redesign. We're talking about a massive box-shaped structure, practically the size of a storage building, designed specifically for Starship 5-3. The old 6-legged spider mount simply can't support what's coming. And the water deluge system, if you've seen those massive jets shooting up at Pad 2 lately, that's the future. Multiple spray directions, significantly higher flow rates, coordinated water shields designed for V3's increased power. The engineering team is verifying every nozzle, every pump response, every flow pattern, because when V3 lights up, there's no room for error. Once demolition finishes, SpaceX faces a construction marathon. New flame trench, advanced deluge system, integrated launch mount, refurbished chopsticks, reconnected propellant lines, and hundreds of system tests. We're looking at months of work, which raises the critical question: if Starbase won't be ready until mid-2026, where does V3 fly first? The answer arrived at Kennedy Space Center on November 5th. SpaceX transported a brand new orbital launch mount, identical to what Pad 1 is being demolished for, all the way to Launch Complex 39A using a massive crane They lifted this multi-story steel structure into the flame trench and locked it down. Yesterday, Kiko Donchev, SpaceX's VP of Launch, shared photos from inside the flame trench. His words were direct. The SpaceX Starship pad at 39A is really starting to take shape. Can't wait for the first V3 Starship launch, and soon after, the first Starship launch from the Cape. When a SpaceX executive talks like that publicly, it's not speculation. It's a timeline confirmation. Florida could launch Starship before Starbase Pad 1 comes back online. LC-39A has cleared heavy construction. The launch mount is installed. The tower with chopsticks has been standing since 2022, just waiting. What remains is the tank farm, liquid methane tanks, liquid oxygen tanks, 7 massive water deluge tanks, all either on-site or being shipped by barge once SpaceX gives the word. Installation will move fast. What makes Florida's pad exceptional is how it incorporates every lesson from Starbase. The water manifold, methane hood, and quick disconnect plate are built directly into the launch mount. All pumps and pipes sit above ground for easier maintenance. This is Starship Infrastructure 2.0, and here's the regulatory advantage. The FAA's draft Environmental Impact Statement has been out since August 2024. Public hearings are done. Final approval is expected by year's end, clearing the path for over 40 annual launches. That means full pad testing by late 2025, with a realistic spring 2026 first launch using Starship V3 for Starlink deployment and orbital refueling tests. One fascinating detail: since the Cape's Gigabay isn't producing Starships yet, SpaceX might roll a complete stack out of Starbase, load it onto a ship, and sail it to Port Canaveral. That journey alone would be historic. While pads transform, the vehicles are coming together. Ship 39, the first Starship V3 prototype, just got its aft section installed on November 16th. That's the final major exterior piece, meaning cryogenic testing at the Massey site is imminent. Booster 18 sits fully stacked in Megabay 1. Waiting SpaceX appears to be finalizing the ceramic heat shield system. Recently, they stripped tiles from Booster 17 at the Rocket Garden, likely for reuse on B-18. That's the end for B-17. It won't fly again. At the Massey Outpost, the Booster 18.3 test tank completed another pressure cycle as Block 3 verification continues. There was unexpected drama when the Western Tower crane malfunctioned and spun uncontrollably for hours. Definitely not supposed to happen, but it's been resolved. At McGregor, Texas, 250 miles north, a Raptor 3 engine exploded during testing. Before alarm sets in, understand this: engines failing during development is normal. What made this noteworthy is when it happened. During startup, not a long-duration burn where most failures occur. Given SpaceX's testing philosophy, this was likely intentional. They're exploring operational limits, deliberately breaking things in controlled environments to understand exactly where and how failures happen. Why? Because next year, Raptor 3 must do something it's never done: restart in space after extended coast phases. Flight 12 in January will focus on in-space engine restarts, critical for payload deployment, orbital refueling, and the complex landing sequence. By breaking startup sequences on the ground, SpaceX gathers data to fix issues before they appear during actual missions. The fact they haven't commented publicly tells you this was routine development work. All this activity aligns with leaked internal timelines: uncrewed lunar landing demo in June 2027, first crewed landing September 2028, with orbital refueling prep missions beginning June 2026. To hit those deadlines, SpaceX needs operational pads in Texas and Florida. They need V3 proven and reliable. They need Raptor 3 engines restarting flawlessly in space. And they need launch cadence. Lots of it. When both LC-39A and upgraded Starbase Pad 1 come online, SpaceX will have the infrastructure for sustained, high-frequency operations. Multiple launch sites, back-to-back flight capability. This isn't building backup options. This is building the foundation for dozens of missions leading to the moon and beyond. So what does all of this actually mean? We're watching SpaceX execute something no aerospace company has attempted before: destroying a proven, successful launch pad while simultaneously bringing a new one online 1,200 miles away, all to accommodate a rocket that hasn't even flown yet. This isn't caution. This isn't incremental progress. This is SpaceX betting everything on Starship V3 being ready, being better, and being worth the massive disruption to their operations. By spring 2026, we could see the first Starship 5-3 launch from Florida, a vehicle more powerful than anything currently flying, launching from a pad built with every hard lesson learned in Texas. And when Starbase Pad 1 comes back online months later, SpaceX will have 2 fully operational Starship launch sites capable of supporting the mission cadence needed for lunar operations, orbital refueling, and eventually Mars. The demolition at Starbase isn't destruction, it's transformation. Every piece of twisted steel being hauled away is making room for the infrastructure that will support humanity's expansion beyond Earth. The timeline is aggressive. June 2026 orbital refueling tests. June 2027 uncrewed lunar landing. September 2028 first crewed moon landing since Apollo. Those dates aren't distant future goals anymore. They're 18 to 36 months away. And every crane movement, every demolished beam, every installed tank brings them closer to reality. If you want to stay updated on every development as SpaceX races toward these deadlines, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for Space Update 24 hours. Drop a comment below with your prediction. Will Florida or Texas launch Starship 5-3 first? And if this video gave you a new perspective on what SpaceX is building, share it with someone who needs to see where spaceflight is headed. The next chapter of space exploration is being written right now, in real time, across 2 launch sites, and we're documenting every moment.